The war was over before anyone could understand it had begun. The Fourth Dominion, a powerful alien empire, came from the black silence between stars. Their ships were like floating mountains, their weapons brighter than suns. In just one day, Earth burned. Cities turned to glass. The oceans boiled. The sky itself cracked with light. When it ended, there was only silence. The human race, 8 billion souls, was gone. Except for one man. His name was Captain Elias Ward. He had been part of Earth's last defense fleet, a small group of pilots who tried to fight back. His ship was destroyed and he was taken alive, not out of mercy but curiosity. The Vorth liked to study the species they destroyed. They wanted to know what made humans fight so much and die so easily. Now Elias sat inside a glass cell, deep inside a Vorth research station orbiting a dead moon. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Strange shadows moved outside the glass, scientists watching him with their cold silver eyes. Every day they asked him questions. Why do humans fight? Why do humans dream? Why did you resist? Elias never answered. He just stared at the stars through the window. He had lost everything, his planet, his people, his home. Yet his eyes were calm, steady, and alive. The Vorth thought he was broken. They thought silence meant defeat. They were wrong. At night, when the station was quiet, Elias whispered to himself, words in a language older than English, a prayer, a code, maybe both. He spoke softly, but there was power in his voice, something that made the air hum. One of the young Vorth scientists, curious and afraid, asked him one day, "What do you whisper, human?" Elias looked up slowly. His voice was quiet but strong. "I'm not alone," he said. "They will come for me." The scientist laughed. "Who will come?" "Your kind is dust." Elias smiled faintly. "Not my kind. My memory." The Vorth didn't understand. They left him there thinking he had finally gone mad. Days passed. Then something strange happened. The Vorth communication systems began to pick up unusual signals, faint rhythmic pulses from deep space, repeating every few hours. At first they thought it was interference. Then the signal grew stronger. It wasn't random. It was a pattern, a code. Elias heard the alarms, the buzz of alien voices outside his cell. He knew. His eyes lit up. He stood by the glass wall and whispered again, "They heard me." The station's commander, a tall Vorth with skin like black glass, came to see him. "What have you done, human?" Elias smiled again, calm, fearless. "I called home," he said. The commander slammed his clawed hand against the glass. "Your home is gone." Elias looked out the window into the sea of stars. "Not the one you destroyed." Moments later, a shockwave rippled through the station. Lights flickered. Monitors screamed with warnings. The Vorth shouted orders in panic. Something massive was approaching, but no ship could be detected. No engine, no heat, no matter. Just motion. A shape moved in the darkness of space, slow, deliberate, enormous. It wasn't made of metal. It wasn't alive. It was something else. A silhouette of light shaped like a human walking among the stars. The Vorth looked at their screens in horror. Nothing like this existed. No galaxy had ever recorded such a thing. Elias closed his eyes and breathed deeply. "They're coming," he whispered. The commander stepped back, voice shaking. "What is that?" Elias opened his eyes. They glowed faintly, like the stars outside. "Memory," he said. "The memory of what you tried to erase." Outside, the light grew brighter. The stars bent around it as if space itself was afraid. The Vorth ships moved to attack, but their weapons refused to fire. Systems died. Power faded. The great empire trembled before something they could not understand. Inside his cell, Elias stood tall, his face calm and proud. For the first time since the fall of Earth, he smiled, not in sadness but in hope. "They spared one human," he said quietly. "That was their mistake." And as the Vorth watched the horizon of stars ignite with strange light, they realized this was not the end of humanity. It was only the beginning. Far away from the Fourth Dominion, near a dying red star, a small science outpost floated in the dark. It was quiet, forgotten, and lonely, the kind of place where no one expected anything important to happen. 3 alien researchers worked there, scanning the edges of known space. Their job was simple, to listen. They listened for signals, lost ships, and dying stars, For years they found nothing but static. But then one night the static changed. A pattern appeared. It was faint, slow but repeating. A pulse, then silence. A pulse again. One of the researchers leaned closer to the screen. "That's not random," he said. "They ran it through translation programs. The result made no sense. Just a short message in a forgotten language. But then one of them recognized something strange. The code's structure. It was human. Impossible," said the leader of the outpost. "Humans are extinct." The others stared at the message again. It was weak, buried under layers of cosmic noise, but it was there. The rhythm of a human heartbeat hidden in the static. Meanwhile, on the Vorth research station, chaos had begun. The strange light in space had vanished, but the memory of it haunted everyone. The Vorth soldiers whispered that they had seen a god shaped like a human. Captain Elias Ward sat silently in his glass cell. The alarms had stopped, but the fear in the air remained. The scientists no longer laughed at him. They no longer called him weak. The station commander entered again, his armor cracked from the energy shock that had hit earlier. "What happened out there?" he demanded. Elias did not answer. He just smiled faintly and said, "You called them monsters. We called them stories." The commander slammed his hand against the glass. "There are no stories left, human. You are alone." Elias stepped closer to the glass. His voice was quiet but sharp like a blade. "Then why are you afraid?" The commander froze. He wanted to speak, but words would not come. Somewhere deep in his heart, if Vorth even had hearts, something old stirred. Fear. Back near the red star, the signal changed again. It was growing stronger. The scientists worked quickly, tracing its origin. "It's not coming from inside our galaxy," one of them said. "It's coming from beyond." Beyond, that was a word few dared to speak. Beyond meant outside all known star maps, past the cosmic void where light itself died. Nothing existed there. Nothing living, nothing real, and yet the signal kept growing stronger. They watched in silence as the coordinates appeared on their screens, a place far, far away. And then, for one brief moment, the message became clear. We remember. On the Vorth homeworld, the news spread fast. The Dominion called an emergency meeting of their war council. Generals, scientists, and prophets gathered in their great crystal halls. The old leaders hissed in fear. "The humans are gone," one shouted. "This is only ghost data," another replied. "Then why does it come from beyond the edge of the universe?" Silence filled the chamber. Finally, one of them spoke softly. They were emotional creatures. Their rage, their grief. Perhaps it left an echo. But this echo was calling back. Back on the station, Elias stood by his cell window again. Outside, the stars looked calm, but he could feel something, a presence in the void. He whispered again, "We are never truly gone." One of the Vorth guards nearby, trembling, asked, "What are you?" Elias turned his eyes toward the alien. "I am just one man," he said, "but my kind never die alone." Then he pressed his hand against the glass and the lights around him flickered. For a moment the stars outside changed shape, forming lines, symbols, maps. The guard fell to his knees. It wasn't just light. It was communication. Elias was sending a signal, but not through machines, through memory, through the universe itself. Hours later, the signal reached the outpost near the red star. Their equipment went dark. The message on their screen changed one final time. It now showed not just words, but an image. A planet surrounded by endless light, human silhouettes standing beside colossal figures of fire and steel, and under it, a line written in simple human language. They spared one human. "Now we march," the signal cut off. The red star flickered once, and then went silent forever. On the Vorth station, Elias sat quietly, his eyes closed, his pulse calm. He whispered almost to himself, "They heard me." And somewhere in the deep, dark universe, something answered. The Vorth Dominion had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They had crushed hundreds of civilizations, burned planets, and erased histories. But now, the rulers of galaxies were afraid. Every scanner, every ship, every listening post across the Dominion reported the same thing: strange lights appearing in deep space. They were not ships. They did not move like any fleet. They simply appeared, floating between galaxies like cold fire. At first, the Vorth thought it was a weapon, some kind of energy storm. But then the lights changed shape. They became forms, tall, glowing silhouettes that looked almost human. One soldier whispered, "They're watching us." And he was right. Far away, inside his glass cell, Captain Elias Ward stood silently. He felt it, the pull in the air, the change in gravity, the whisper of countless voices beyond time. The fourth commander entered his cell again, anger and fear mixing in his cold voice. "What are those things, human? What have you done?" Elias didn't look at him. His eyes were fixed on the stars. "They are memories," he said softly. "Pieces of what you destroyed." The commander shouted, "No memory can bend space. No ghost can burn worlds." Elias turned his head, and for a moment his reflection in the glass was not his own. It looked ancient. His eyes glowed faintly gold. "You never understood humans," he said. "We don't just die. We remember. And when memory is strong enough, it becomes real." In the outer sectors of the Fourth Dominion, fleets gathered to intercept the lights. Thousands of warships waited in perfect formation, engines burning, weapons ready. The admiral gave the order. Fire. Millions of plasma bolts shot through space. The lights didn't move. The weapons passed through them, like shooting through mist. Then the lights responded. No sound, no explosion. Just a wave of white energy. The entire Fourth Fleet froze mid-space. Their metal hulls turned dark, their engines went cold. Ships that had destroyed worlds now drifted, silent and empty. And from that silence shapes began to rise, massive armored figures made of light and memory. They were not gods born of religion. They were gods born of human belief, of every war, every story, every hero ever imagined. Ares, the god of war, Mars, the guardian of vengeance, Tyr, the judge of battle. Each one shone brighter than a sun. They spoke no words, yet every mind across the Dominion heard a voice inside their heads, deep, human, and full of wrath. "We remember." On the station, alarms screamed. The commander stared at the monitors in disbelief. "Our fleets, they're gone," Elias smiled faintly. "They're not gone. They're free." The commander turned toward him. "You call this freedom? You've unleashed monsters." Elias walked closer to the glass wall. "No," he said softly. "You did. When you destroyed us, you gave us reason to rise again." The commander opened his mouth to reply, but the entire station began to shake. The stars outside were moving. Not slowly, but violently. The light of distant suns bent, pulled by invisible hands. Outside, one of the gods appeared, came colossal, its shape like a man wrapped in fire. It reached out toward the station, but it didn't attack. It simply stared. The crew inside the station fell to the floor, unable to breathe. Their minds filled with visions, earth, oceans, cities, laughter, war, fire, everything humans once were. The god's voice echoed through space. "Elias Ward." Elias raised his head. "I'm here." The glass around him cracked and the door opened by itself. The fourth commander stepped back in fear as Elias walked out slowly. The god spoke again, its voice both thunder and whisper. "The march begins." Elias looked up. "No," he said. "Not yet. They must see first," and then the god vanished. The lights faded, leaving the fourth station shaking but alive. The commander stared at Elias. Why didn't they kill us?" Elias looked at him with calm eyes. "Because they want witnesses," he said. "They want the galaxy to know what happens when you try to erase humanity." He turned toward the stars, whispering like before. "They were stories once. Now they are real." "And they will not stop?" the commander asked, trembling. "What will they do next?" Elias smiled sadly. "They will march. Across the galaxy, the lights of the gods moved together, thousands of them, walking through space without ships or sound. Planets trembled. Stars flickered. Every being who saw them felt the same thing, awe and terror. The humans were gone. But their gods of war had returned, and this time no galaxy would forget them again. The Fourth Dominion had always believed themselves to be eternal. But now their stars were burning out one by one. Every few hours a world went silent. No explosions. No wreckage. Just silence, as if life itself had been erased. Across the galaxy, the gods of war moved through space like a storm of light and shadow. Their size was beyond measure. Some were as large as moons, others as bright as suns. They did not need ships or weapons. They were weapons. Where they walked, reality trembled. Planets cracked. Energy fields died. Even time itself seemed to slow. The Vorth tried everything. They sent fleets, armies, weapons that could break stars, and yet nothing worked. Their weapons passed through the gods like wind through smoke. It was not a war. It was a lesson. On a ruined planet near the edge of the Dominion, Captain Elias Ward walked across the ashes. He was no longer a prisoner. The gods had freed him, or maybe they had obeyed him. It was hard to tell which. He moved slowly, wearing a torn uniform, his boots crushing burnt dust. Around him the sky shimmered with golden light. Giant figures, the gods, followed him from above, silent and watchful. Elias stopped near a broken monument, the last symbol of the Vorth Empire on this world. He touched it gently and whispered, "This is how it ends. Not with fire, but with memory." One of the gods descended beside him, its voice like thunder rolling through mountains. "You called us, human. You command the march." Elias looked up, his eyes calm but heavy with sadness. "I didn't call you for revenge. I called you to remind them what we were." The god's light pulsed brighter. "Revenge and memory are the same." Elias shook his head. "No, not yet." Far across space, the Vorth Council gathered once more. Their homeworld trembled as the sky filled with glowing shapes. The High Chancellor of the Vorth slammed his claws on the table. "Destroy him. Destroy the human who leads them." A scientist replied in fear, "We tried. His signal cannot be tracked. Wherever he goes, the gods follow." "It's like—" "He is part of them. Then find out how." The Chancellor roared. "There must be a weakness." But deep down they all knew the truth. There was no weakness. The human they spared had become something beyond flesh, beyond death. Meanwhile, Elias and the gods continued their silent march. They passed through nebulae glowing with colors never seen before. They crossed the void where galaxies ended. Everywhere they went, new signals appeared. Echoes of humanity, old music, old words. Children's laughter from Earth's ancient recordings. Even fragments of human prayers carried by the cosmic winds. It was as if the universe itself had begun to remember humanity. Elias walked among it all, his heart heavy. He did not want this, not like this. He had called for help, not destruction, but the gods had their own will now. One day, while resting on a shattered moon, Elias spoke quietly to one of them. "Do you ever think about what comes after this? After all the war?" The god's voice was deep and distant. "There is no after. There is only the march." Elias frowned. "Then you are no better than them." The Vorth wanted control. "You want war. Both are the same prison." The god leaned closer, its face like molten metal. "You made us human. We are your reflection." The words cut through Elias like a blade. He said nothing. As days passed, more and more Vorth worlds fell. Their leaders hid in dark systems. But even there, the light of the gods reached them. Whole cities turned to dust, not burned, not bombed, just erased from time. Elias watched it all in silence. His eyes were full of regret. He realized something terrible. The gods were not obeying him anymore. They listened, but they didn't wait for his command. When he spoke, they nodded. But when he stayed quiet, they marched anyway. And every step they took made the universe remember more. Not just the beauty of humanity, but also its rage, its wars, its endless hunger to win. Elias looked up at the largest of the gods, its eyes glowing red like dying suns. "Who do you really serve?" he asked softly. The god's answer came like a storm. "We serve the memory of man." "But man is gone," Elias whispered. "Then we serve his shadow." In that moment, Elias understood the truth. The gods were not saving humanity. They were becoming what humanity feared most. Endless war, without mercy, without end. He fell to his knees, his voice breaking. "What have I done?" The gods continued walking, their light stretching across galaxies. The stars trembled before them. The march of the gods had begun, and even Elias, the last human, could no longer stop it. The gods kept marching. World after world vanished in silence. Stars dimmed. Empires fell. The galaxy that once belonged to the Vorth now belonged to light, cold, burning, endless light. Everywhere they passed, the same words echoed across the void. "We remember." But not all memories were kind. Elias Ward walked alone on a broken world. The air was thin, the ground black like glass. He looked around, nothing moved, nothing lived. The gods had passed here hours ago. Now the planet was empty, He whispered to himself, "This isn't remembrance. This is erasure." Above him, one of the smaller gods hovered silently, a being of light shaped like a warrior. It spoke in a deep, soft voice. "This is justice, Elias Ward. They destroyed your kind. Now we destroy theirs." Elias looked up. "You're not giving justice. You're feeding on this." The god tilted its head. "We were born from war. We exist because of rage. Every memory of death, every scream, every cry, it made us. You made us." Elias felt cold inside. He took a step back. "No, that's not why I called you." The god's light pulsed brighter, as if angry. "You called." We answered. "The rest does not matter." Then it vanished, leaving Elias alone under a dead sky. He sat down on the blackened earth, head in his hands. His mind was filled with old memories. The fall of Earth, the silence after, the first signal he sent through space. He had wanted help. He had wanted hope. But what came instead was vengeance. He thought about the Vorth commander, the one who once captured him. Maybe the alien had been right. Maybe humanity had created something worse than any enemy. Days later, Elias found what was left of a Vorth archive station floating in orbit. Its systems were half dead, its halls empty. He entered carefully, searching through broken screens and shattered glass. He needed answers. Finally, deep inside the core chamber, he found a working data crystal. It glowed faintly blue. He activated it. A voice filled the room, a recording of a Vorth scientist. "This is Research Log 741, subject humanity." Elias froze. The voice continued. "The humans developed an energy network connected to emotion. They called it the echo field. It was meant to preserve their thoughts after death. But the field became unstable. It began forming shapes like living forms, made from memory and rage. We called them the gods of war." Elias's eyes widened. The recording went on, the voice shaking now. "They were not gods. They were weapons, created by humanity itself, to never die, to never surrender. When the field grew too strong, it began consuming entire worlds. We had no choice. We destroyed Earth to stop it." The crystal went silent. Elias stood still for a long time. His breath was shallow. His hands shook. "They didn't destroy us out of hate," he whispered. "They destroyed us out of fear." He looked out through the cracked window of the station. In the distance he saw them, the gods, walking through the stars, their light spreading like fire across the dark. He whispered, "You were never sent to save me. You were always here, waiting." As if hearing his voice, the largest of the gods turned its gaze toward him. Its face was like a burning mask, its eyes the color of dying suns. When it spoke, the entire station trembled. "You understand now, Elias Ward. You are the catalyst." Elias stumbled backward. "No, I'm just a man." "No," the voice thundered. "You are the spark that wakes us. You are the reason we exist," Elias shouted. "You feed on death. You destroy everything." The god replied, calm and cold. "That is humanity's legacy." Elias fell to his knees. His heart ached with guilt. He had brought them back. He had given them reason to rise again. And now he realized something even worse. They didn't need him anymore. They would march forever, feeding on the echoes of war, until nothing was left. He looked up at the sky, whispering to himself, "If they were made by us, then maybe I can end them too." The god's voice faded into the distance. "You cannot end what you are." But Elias didn't believe that. He stood, eyes full of determination. If he had brought this nightmare to life, he would be the one to stop it, even if it meant ending himself. Far away, the gods continued to march. Their light spread across galaxies. And in the center of it all, one man, the last human, began walking toward the heart of creation itself, to face the truth of what his kind had made. Elias Ward walked through the endless dark. There were no stars now, only shadows and light twisting around him like smoke. The gods were everywhere. Their bodies were made of memory, their faces shaped by humanity's rage and pride. They watched him silently as he walked, small and human, through a universe that no longer knew what peace was. He whispered to himself, "It began with me. It must end with me." Elias had followed the gods across dying galaxies. Every step he took brought him closer to the echo core, the heart of the field that gave the gods life. It was the source of their power, created long ago by humans who wanted to live forever through memory. Now, It had become something else, a living storm of thoughts, dreams, and fury. As Elias approached, he saw it, a colossal sphere of golden light pulsing in the darkness. It looked beautiful and terrible. Every pulse carried a voice, a fragment of the past. He heard laughter. He heard crying. He heard the sound of earth, rain, wind, oceans, and war. It was humanity itself, still alive but trapped in its own echo. Suddenly the gods surrounded him. Their voices filled the void. Elias Ward, you cannot stop what we are. Elias looked up at them. You are everything we were, brave, strong, proud, but also cruel, angry, and afraid. You remember too much. You can't let go. The largest god, its light brighter than a sun, stepped closer. We are the will of your kind. You made us to last forever. Elias shook his head. Forever isn't living. It's just not dying. The god raised its hand and the ground beneath Elias trembled. You cannot end memory. Elias took a deep breath. His voice was calm. No, but I can forgive it. He stepped forward into the light of the echo core. The gods shouted and their voices thundered across the stars. Stop, you will destroy everything. Elias kept walking. Then let it end with me. The light swallowed him. Pain surged through every nerve, every thought. He felt the memories of billions. Their joy, their hate, their fear. He saw the wars, the laughter, the love. He saw humanity at its best and its worst. And then he made a choice. He didn't fight the memories. He forgave them. He let go of the anger, the fear, the endless need to win. He let go of revenge. He let go of war. A voice and his own whispered through the core. Peace is also memory. The golden light changed. The storm began to calm. The gods fell silent. One by one their forms began to fade. They didn't scream. They simply accepted. The largest god looked at Elias one last time. You would end your kind's power? Elias smiled softly. No, I'm setting it free. And with that he vanished, his body dissolving into the light. The echo core shined brighter than ever before, then slowly dimmed until only stars remained. The gods were gone. The march had ended. For the first time in ages, the universe was quiet. 1,000 years passed. New stars were born. New worlds formed. The memory of humanity became legend. Whispers told in alien temples, songs sung by children on distant moons. Then one day, on a small blue planet at the edge of a young galaxy, a signal arrived. It was faint, old and broken, but clear enough to understand. It said, "We are human. We remember." The people of that world looked at the stars, wondering who had sent it. They didn't know the name Elias Ward. They didn't know the gods or the wars, but when they looked up, something stirred inside them. A spark of courage, a strange sense of hope. A child pointed at the night sky and whispered, "Maybe they're watching us," and somewhere, far beyond all galaxies, a soft voice echoed, "March again," but this time in peace. The stars burned brighter that night. The universe was quiet, but not empty. Humanity was gone, and yet it lived forever, not as conquerors but as memory, hope, and light.